Codependency 101.
Codependency 101, that's right. And actually, the concepts are probably a lot more simple than you think. Codependency is a nice big long word, but in reality, the concepts are pretty poignant, pretty short. So let's kind of get into that. So the first piece of bad news is that addiction, it represents my hiding. So addiction is how I hide from life. I don't want to engage with reality. I don't want to engage with love because I don't trust, and so I'm hiding. So I go to rehab, go to treatment, and I stop using. Life is good, life is wonderful. But then something happens in my relationships where they're still not going out right. They're still not connecting. I'm still not getting my needs met, and I don't quite know why. And so this is good information for not just those that are struggling with addiction, but also for parents to understand their loved ones in addiction. So this actually has two benefits. So if addiction is my hiding, then codependency, which now is underneath my addiction, so I'm gonna peel off the addiction, no longer hiding, now I'm kind of present, but now what's under my addiction is my codependency, and that is my sense of value. And so let's just kind of keep it simple with that. My codependency is my distortion of my value. So how does it look like? So just keep this real short. There are some real important distortions that I have in my thinking that keep me in a codependent mode of discounting my value, and that's what we're going to talk about. So what are those cognitive errors, distortions? Well, they're statements that I tell myself, like others are more valuable than me. That person is more in control. That person looks better. That person speaks better, and I don't fit in. And by the way, that's probably why I started using to begin with, because I didn't sense that I was fitting in. And so here we go, right back to the core issue. So things I tell myself, others are more valuable than I am. If you really knew me, you wouldn't want to be around me. If you really knew who I really was, you wouldn't want to be around me. I'm lost and you're found. So once again, you have the value, I do not. See, this is kind of getting darker already as we're talking about this, because now you can see that all of a sudden in my thinking, I'm starting to isolate and pull back from people. And I wonder if you find yourself doing that. And this could be a parent. You may be doing it. Your loved one, your son or daughter, family member that is struggling with addiction. They deal with this. I will always be alone. So if we just stop right there, we've got some serious problems that constitute that whole concept of codependency. So I've got to do something. So here's the problem. In my codependency, I have to completely flip the script on what normal love is. Because normal love, or let's put it this way, love that is effective in meeting my needs and meeting the needs of others, let's use that as our definition, is all a matter of my being vulnerable enough to share who I am with someone else, and then developing trust and mutuality so that they will trust me as I trust them. They will give the gift of relationship to me as I give the gift of relationship to them. But now codependency has to flip that, because wait a minute, you're not going to want to be around me because I don't have that much value and I'm just really kind of just not very good person. So I've got to flip it. So I'm going to flip it from vulnerability to control. I'm going to flip it from a gift to a debt. I'm going to flip it from being open to now being in charge and in power. Now we've got some serious problems. And you may say, so that's kind of weird. What would that look like? Well, let's try this out. Have you ever been in a relationship where you are the one trying to fix someone else? There was this reading that I had this morning from Language of Letting Go by Melanie Beattie. It says, it's so easy to come to the defense of others. How clear it is when others are being used, controlled, manipulated, or abused. It's so easy to fight their battles, etc., etc. So what am I doing? I'm looking for someone that I can fix. I'm looking for someone who needs me. I'm looking for someone who's broken. I'm looking for the Mission Impossible. Now, you all know who that looks like. And don't look to the person next to you, but Mission Impossible are those people that are so severely broken, either in their emotions or their financial situation or their addiction, that it's perfect, because now I can swoop in and rescue them and feel really good about me. But there's a catch with that, and that is that because I'm not exposing myself, I'm not being vulnerable, I'm not being trusting, I'm just taking captives. And so I fix you, and now you won't leave me. So forget about me having value, don't need that anymore. Now I'm fixing you. So now I'm above you, you're below me, I have the power, you don't. I have the control, you don't. And you're not going anywhere, because I'm bringing so much value to the table, and I feel so righteous doing that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because so many people forget this part, and why it's a process and takes time is we have this gaping wound. I mean, this dark, insidious wound, and literally it leads to death. And then along comes using, and it's a Band-Aid, and it actually briefly satiates, and it covers up. And then when we finally get help, we get treatment, we stop, that Band-Aid comes off. And then so many people fall into the cycle of 15 days, 30 days, Band-Aid's off, I feel great, hey, I'm ready to go. It's kind of like, actually no, we've exposed this wound that has been there for a while and actually is festering, and the addiction covered it. Now the addiction's off, now the real work starts. And this is where we see so many times of people try to cut the process of saying, wait a minute, because I can't see the wound, I'm fine. And this is part of this whole aspect. This codependency is part of the wound, among other things. And that's why it's so important to deal with the wound, deal with the actual issues that are happening as opposed to the symptoms.
Exactly, that's exactly right. And so going back to the beginning, so like you said, so my addiction of hiding is because I'm not getting my needs met. So maybe when you're growing up, speaking for the person that is struggling with addiction, maybe when you grew up, you didn't have that kind of environment where you were heard and your needs were responded to and that your needs were met. And so you kind of shut that down, you hid it away, you tucked it away, and you covered it up with a drug. Well, now that you're not using, those needs haven't gone anywhere. But we can't move to a place of power, because where there's no freedom, there's no love. Once you take freedom out of the picture by your fixing, by your controlling, love disappears. Now it becomes a debt. See, and that's the problem now with this whole issue of codependency, is now I create debts out there, and now you need to repay the debt that I just filled for you. And if you don't repay that debt of love or attention or affection, now I'm gonna get mad because, hey, you owe me, right? Look at how much I've done for you. Look at how much I've sacrificed for you. And why can't you just do this? And see, it doesn't work, because now guns and knives come out, it gets really ugly, resentments, anger, fights, conflicts break out, because it's totally missed the mark of what love is. Love is a gift. You cannot arrive at that gift any other way than by your vulnerability and your ability to trust with boundaries another human being.
Yeah, and the process comes from, we come in of thinking love is like this, where you grip so tight, you're actually suffocating it and it's dying. And so many people reside in relationships in this way, especially early recovery, and to become vulnerable and to go, oh my gosh, I have to open up and say it's a gift, which means you can choose to take it or choose not to, and I've got to learn how to be okay either way.
Right.
And when we're actually able to meet this openly, that's when the real gift of love starts coming in. This is where the healing starts.
That's exactly right. And I kind of like to use the example of a bottle, empty water bottle, let's say. And so my empty water bottle is my insides that have, I don't have the love, right? And so what I do is I take the cup, I take that bottle to other people, and I say, you have to fill it for me. And let's add to it, I just rescued you, so you better fill it for me. And so again, that whole concept of the real gift of love, the value that we attach to what is real love, really being known, understood, and cared for without an agenda, that's what we really want to get back to.
So what are a few tools that we can give that can be implemented maybe immediately of how to start this process, or at least start the conversation of how to break this codependency cycle?
So the real issue again goes back to my value, because that's why I do this to begin with. I didn't receive what I needed to. Now my concept of my value is extremely low, and I've got to do all these things to attract people that is not giving me the sense of really being loved. So I've got to go back to my value. Where do you get your value from? And that's the question that I ask my clients. That is a key question for humankind. Where do you get your sense of value? If you're not getting it from a source of love, then you're not getting it, period. If your value is based on anything that is materialistic or possessions, or how many girlfriends or boyfriends, how many cars, any of that stuff, you're not getting to the core of your value. Well, your value was how you were created. No one can take away your value. You can just discount it. And that's the bottom line. So where are you going to connect with that? Well, 12 steps say that you have to increase your conscious contact with your higher power. For me, it's God. I've got to increase my conscious contact with a loving God who restores my sense of value, my understanding of my true value. And I start from there. And then I start bringing people into my life that can recognize that and preserve my dignity. Once you have people that are not preserving your dignity, then you experience people that are not responsible with you, they're not mutual with you, they're not available with you, they don't value you. So we go back to square one. Time to reconnect with the truth of your value, and I start that with my higher power, and then with other people.
So I'm hearing that number one is truth and transparency. Truth with where I am, without judgment,
Right.
stating, okay, here's how I need to consciously connect with my higher power, that being transparent. Then we move to vulnerability and accountability with safe people. So then I can go ahead,
Exactly.
get involved with other people. That is why the program is so big, to be able to just be vulnerable and say, gosh, here I am, wounds and scars and all, to be accepted and say, okay, what are we doing today to continue to work and heal?
Exactly right.
Perfect.
Exactly
Well,
right.
thank you.
Okay, very good.